joining us right now. And we got a lot to get to. The one, the only, the lovely, the talented, the muscular, the young-looking. I'm just buttering him up.
Wow, you are.
Sean Salisbury. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, guys. What's happening?
How are you, brother? How was your show?
It was awesome. Thank you. A lot to talk about. And obviously with the Astros day game today and Texans and Pete Rose and Dikembe Mutombo. So a lot to cover, man. So some of it good, some of it sad. Unfortunate. But
I want to start with Pete Rose. I have a feeling you and I kind of land in the same spot here. I could be wrong. I started out with the disclaimer. Look, Pete had issues off the field. Okay. He had the gambling, but then there was the stuff that I have a little bit of a bigger problem with. But here's where I'm landing, Sean. I want to see where you're at. I was telling Jason earlier, Bart Giamatti, the late Bart Giamatti, and Faye Vincent, but he had a lifetime ban. He was banned for life. His life is over. I get it. Put him in the Hall of Fame. He's the greatest hitter of all time. He broke the record. He's Charlie Hustle. Baseball has all kinds of stains on it. I don't need him. I don't need to acknowledge that he was an angel off the field. He may not even be where we think he is right now, if you get my drift, but he's one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Yeah, and I take this another level emotionally. He's been a good friend of mine for a long 3 decades.
Gotcha.
And one of the greatest moments I've had in my top 5, maybe top 3, is he and Tony Perez. When I was doing television, we did simulcast television TV for BN. He came into the studio, was supposed to do a segment or two. He and Tony Perez, we sat down and they sat for 2 hours and talked baseball and life and Joe DiMaggio stories. It was phenomenal. And I've spent many a year times with some laughs with Pete Rose. And listen, we can say all we want about off the field stuff. A lot of people go through it. And I just believe in death. I reserve, trying to pick somebody apart. I mean, enough people have done that. And Pete knows what his weaknesses were. And we all know that, well documented. And he wasn't perfect by any stretch. Damn near perfect baseball player, though. I'll tell you that. So he's a friend. And I understand what all some of the naysayers about the gambling when it says on a clubhouse, door, you're not allowed to gamble, and ban them for life. But we have murderers on the street who are let out early that serve their time, or you can be banned from something, but second chance or second opportunity. I think he served his time when it comes to the gambling part of it. I do. And so, we're giving people chances a lot of times, and now in his death. And I think it's sad. I would have loved to hear Pete Rose's Hall of Fame speech. Yep. I would have. So I understand people are like, well, I don't like him for this or that, or he was, arrogant, or, wasn't remorseful when it came to gambling. All those things. We all have, listen, man, who of us hasn't had something silly, maybe not as big as what Pete Rose did, but we've all been mistakes. And when they die, I usually like to point out the good stuff. Pete Rose treated me like gold. He was awesome to me. Some funny stories, great stories. But as a baseball player, you tell me, 80% of the kids from my era, when they mention names, one of the first names they mention how to play baseball is Pete Rose. And most of the adults too, and running and hustling and playing different positions. He and Gwen and Wade Boggs, in my mind, are the best small ball players we've ever had at the plate. And, obviously to Ted Williams and the Willie Mays when it comes to being able to power and average. But Pete Rose, one of the greats of all time. So if people choose, and I understand if they don't like Pete, but he was good to me, and that's how I judge him. And none of us are air free from mistakes. And some of the things he did still, I know what you're talking about. When some of the things that he'll be judged for that are beyond our pay grade. Yep. But as a player, no better, belongs off him. He's part of baseball's story, guys. Yeah. Even if you put a plaque in there that tells why he was banned for so long. Explain it. Tell it. It's part of it. But you're not a museum or a shrine if Pete Rose isn't in it. You're just not, because he is. I mean, come on, man. His hit record's never going to be touched. So, but I understand. Well, life means life. Well, if that was the case, then nobody'd ever get a second chance in life. Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I appreciate his friendship, and I choose to talk well about a guy who's going to be buried soon.
Sean, I don't know if you guys ever talked about it, but we know he wanted to be in, and obviously, as you said, I mean, the records go without saying. Did he think he would get in?
No. Yeah. When at the time I had my conversation with Pete, he did not think he would. He holds out hope, and I know this as much as 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 tough as Pete Rose is, and he can be very blunt. He was very blunt, but there's a sensitivity. I think at times, and it was some self-inflicted because he's a very, he knows hitting and he knows he was good at what he did. But I think there's a sense, there's a part of Pete Rose that from where I sat in the conversations I had with him, there's some sensitivity about it. He tried not to lead on that it bothered him sensitive. He'd come back with, when the Ohtani stuff was going on, Pete always has comments, and Pete loves sports. Nobody loved their sport. I'm just talking about playing it. Pete Rose loved baseball like a 12-year-old loves Little League. It's incredible. But I've asked him that, and it's a great point by you. And he knows he belongs in. He didn't think he was going to get in, but I will tell you this. He did admit, he said, I know I'm a Hall of Famer. I just won't have the bust in it, was his quote to me off the air. And he did. And we know that he's a Hall of Famer by the standards of Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer. Roger Clemens Hall of Fame. They're just not in the Hall of Fame. If that makes any sense. But yeah, he didn't think he was going to get in because figuring that it would have probably happened sooner after all the time and that he had been kicked out of baseball. But I think baseball, people who love baseball and know baseball and want baseball know he belongs next to the greats of baseball because he earned it.
Sean Salisbury with us, just switching to NFL football real quick. I think when we talked in the preseason, we both had the Chiefs and Vikings as the last remaining undefeated teams, led by Sam Darnold. Hey, look, not only did you play for the Vikings, not only did you play under center, but you understand a little bit about quarterback development as you've been incredibly involved with developing youngsters. Sean, when you look at Sam Darnold, does that kind of speak to the whole the thing we've talked about, I think, a lot over the years on this show, the immense amount of pressure, whether you go the Manning-Aikman route, whether you go the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love route where you're carrying clipboards, but this pressure on these guys and a guy like Darnold, is it just as simple as the dude's younger than Joe Burrow? We talked about that last week, which is crazy. And maybe now he's finally with the right organization that can actually use his talents.
Dave, we put a time clock and expect everybody to be on the same one. Mm-hmm. But in life, the 12-year-old may act 16 and then the next 12-year-old may act 8. We don't. People mature different on the field, off the field. And I know it sounds cheesy and elementary, but it's true. And regardless if you're on the side of, hey, make the first rounder sit no matter who the veteran is and let him learn, or you're on the side that I'm on, that if he's as good as the veteran and the veteran's making rookie mistakes, you play him. And I drafted him and I did my due diligence because I know he can handle failure and success. So regardless of where you sit on, development matters and coaching matters and having good players around you matters. Listen, I can take a lot of quarterbacks that that would have been better with better players. And I can take quarterbacks that, Geno Smith is a good example. A guy, he got with the right coach, the right system where he fit and felt comfortable and felt at home, and he's thriving. He was a journeyman. So you see it probably more often than we think, but with Sam Darnold and guys like him. Listen, the Jets and Carolina, not good football teams, and Sam was too big and wanted to be the hero. And not out in public, but that pressure that you were talking about, Dave, of to have to succeed early, and we compare them all. Well, Mahomes in his second year, or Stroud as a rookie, and these guys that just play great, or the way the kid in Washington is playing right now, and Jaden Daniels, he ain't playing anything like a rookie. But why are my expectations on Bo Nix the same as they are Jaden Daniels? Different coaches, different system, different expectations for them in their cities. So yeah, Sam Darnold, you get with a good coach, a guy who gets offense. You're in a system you're comfortable with, and he's learned now that he doesn't have to make every play. I think that's a big part of it. He's being more patient. You watch him, he overcomes an interception faster, and he's not throwing it into crowds where he says, I got to make this play. He doesn't have to. He's getting through his progressions, and whether it took 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, or 6 years, well, he just didn't. And now what does that mean? We're going to get him until he's 42, and he's going to fresh legs until he's 42. I think it's absurd that we expect everybody to come in and play like a 5-year veteran who's taking your team to the Super Bowl. Look at Brock Purdy. Nobody expected him to even make a roster as the last guy drafted. And now, he's keeping them afloat and playing great football at the top of the league and passing again. So the maturity thing, we got to be patient. Everybody's not the same. Some in a year, some in 2 years, some in 5 years, some on the Geno Smith or the Sam Darnold train where it's just a little later. But don't mistake the fact that good coaching and good players around you in a comfortable system do matter. Is
Baker Mayfield doing some of that too?
Yeah, he is. But the difference between I think the intrigue we had with Sam Darnold, and even though Baker was the first pick, the Sam Darnold, the intrigue we had within the arms, the arm talent with Baker Mayfield. He came in as a rookie and had success. 19 touchdowns and nine picks, I think. So unlike Sam Darnold, who didn't have much success, flashes, but Baker played pretty good as a rookie. Then the next year wasn't very good. Third year, I believe it was the third year we had him in the playoffs, and they got beat, I think, when Chad Henne came off the bench. I think that was his third year. Improved again. Then the fourth year, he reverted back to his second year. So the odd years were good to Baker, and then he left and floundered around. That's exactly right. He's got in a system he's comfortable. He's probably matured and learned some lessons about how to approach a team, how to approach celebrations, how to approach your preparation, all these things that, when you're brash and confident and you've been a walk-on, it feels like Baker Mayfield's gone back to his walk-on mentality of, man, I'm a survivor. This is how I was at my best when I have the walk-on mentality, not the superstar mentality. And in the process of having that grind that built him into the first pick of the draft, he's learned and becoming a guy you're validating now. They're winning. He's playing good football, had a great game last week. And so, again, but he had, unlike Geno or Sam Darnold or some of the guys, he had early success where Darnold and those guys did not. And it would have been easy for those guys to disappear, but they stuck with it. And Baker's confident enough to fight through those and knows he belongs. And he's matured as well. But he saw early success when he was with Cleveland, which I think helped him understand what that looked like. And he saw a lot of failure, which I think he's matured from.
Last thing, Sean, I know we're out of time. I'm sure you've gone over this, but I want to play this for you, and I'm going to put you on hold so you can hear it. This is Tom Brady during the broadcast talking about Baker Mayfield, wanting to have some fun.
I said, quote, they wanted me to come in, be myself, bring the joy back to football for guys who weren't having as much fun. It's funny because you've made this environment for me very stressful up here in the booth, so I understand where he's coming from.
Do you feel it?
No.
Feel the stress? No. Well, I was going to say, I thought stressful was not having Super Bowl rings. So there was a mindset of a champion that I took to work every day. This wasn't daycare. If I wanted to have fun, I was going to go to Disneyland with my kids.
All right, let me bring that. I mean, you can answer that question a hell of a lot better than us and our fat asses on the couch that never played the game. But what did you think when you heard that?
I could sure as hell tell you, I wouldn't have said what Baker said, knowing I'm talking about the GOAT. I promise you that. But you know what I do love? It's banter, and I think it's harmless. But Brady's response is priceless. Not Disneyland. I'll take my kids, and oh, by the way, Super Bowl rings take stress away. So yeah, having fun. I lean to the Brady side, but I kind of like to dig both ways. And here's what I do know: not everybody can handle the intensity of those, like the Belichicks and the Bradys. But I got news for you: they'll still hug him every day because they're wearing, because of him, or in large part because of him, they're 7 Super Bowl rings for those who are part of it in Tampa and New England. So I love the banter, though. It made for good fun. Yep. And it still shows you Baker's got some guts now, but Tom Brady's not missing any opportunity to let you know he's still Tom Brady. Okay, yep. Make no mistake. There you go.
Love it on both sides. Sean Salisbury joins us each and every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Appreciate you, brother. Have a good rest of your week.
No problem. Thanks. You guys, too. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
That's Sean Salisbury. We'll take a break. When we come back, Devin Carter, Kings rookie, maybe the